The 5th year. We need more positive energy.
Good evening. Thousands of people from all across Hong Kong took to the streets today to demand better working conditions, a tradition on Labor Day. Protesters urged the government to standardize working hours and introduce a retirement protection scheme, while others asked for better protection for domestic helpers. Bolan reports.
It's Labor Day and thousands of workers from different employment sectors turned up at Victoria Park for various rallies and to demand better pay and rights. This afternoon's May Day rally was organised by the Confederation of Trade Unions, which has a long list of demands.
Today, our march is to continue to demand for a work-life balance with working hours regulation. We are demanding for the right to collective bargaining and working hour regulation to narrow down the wage gap, and also demand for a minimum wage increase of every year. We have one last year, and the government is delaying it to increase it next year. So again, it's 2 years. We have to wait for any increase, and again, that will cause a lot of deterioration in livelihood for the workers in Hong Kong.
Among the protesters were domestic and migrant workers, teachers, marine department staff and builders. They chanted slogans like "Workers Unite" and "We don't want to be slaves to our work." As usual, the rallies ended up at the government's headquarters at Tamar. The protesters also accused Chief Executive Yeung of breaking an election promise by not improving labour conditions. Earlier, minor scuffles broke out at another Labor Day protest after the organisers were told they weren't allowed to get close enough to the building to hand their petition in. Around 100 demonstrators from the Neighbourhood and Workers' Service Centre marched from Chater Garden in Central to government headquarters. The organisers claimed they had followed police instructions on where to gather. Officers held back angry demonstrators who tried to get closer to the building. A government representative eventually came out and accepted the petition, but organisers ripped it up instead and handed it over. Thousands of people took part in another rally this morning organised by the Pro-Beijing Federation of Trade Unions. Some wore costumes. They gathered in Southern Playground before marching to the same place as the other marches. These protesters were demanding better retirement protection and working hours.
Ms. C.Y. Leung during the campaign has also promised to legislate, right, for the standard working hours, right. So we want the government to fulfill its promise, and also we want the government to show the government with a strong voice that we oppose expansion of the import of foreign labour and workers.
They also urged officials to ban employers from using MPF contributions as severance pay. The FTU also proposed raising the minimum wage to $39.70 from the current rate of $30. The union says that the 32% jump is based on a number of factors, including living expenses and social security payments. Organisers said around 5,000 people turned up for the rally. Meanwhile, migrant worker groups and supporters of former Indonesian domestic helper Erwiana Solistianingsih also marched, only this time from Victoria Park to the Indonesian consulate. They want better protection for the more than 300,000 maids working in the city. Specifically, they want the government to scrap a rule that forces them to live with their employers and tighten regulation of employment agencies. Erwiana was thrown into the international spotlight when she was hospitalised on her return to Indonesia after claiming that her former employer tortured her. The government issued a statement in response to the protests, saying it attaches great importance to protecting labour rights and is committed to improving employees' benefits. On importing foreign labour, it insisted local workers will be given priority for employment. Leung, ATV News.
A group of locals launched a bizarre photography competition today, aimed at capturing mainlanders going to the toilet in public during the Golden Week holiday. Meanwhile, another group hosted a parody protest as part of a campaign that will almost certainly stir cross-border tensions. Emily C reports.
An argument broke out between a mainlander and a group of locals on busy Yeung Choi Street in Mongkok this afternoon. The man told the group to stop labeling mainlanders as people who urinate in the streets, but the group insisted they just wanted to remind visitors from across the border to follow Hong Kong's laws. The group was there to launch what they called a photography competition to capture mainland visitors defecating in public during the Labor Day Golden Week holiday, which starts today. Organizers said the event was a response to mainland internet users who called on people to come to Hong Kong and defecate on the streets. The row began last week when a video of a mainland toddler urinating on a road in Mongkok appeared online and sparked a heated debate between locals and mainlanders on the internet. The footage prompted two ministers to urge Hong Kong residents to be more understanding towards cross-border visitors. Their comments angered some Hong Kongers who feel overwhelmed by the rapidly growing number of mainland visitors. They include the group Civic Passion, who went to vent their frustration in Tsim Sha Tsui this afternoon. Many dressed up as Red Guards and sang the Chinese anthem. Holding Chinese and Communist Party flags, they urge mainland visitors to love their country and party, stay at home, and consume China-made products to boost the country's GDP. The group marched and chanted slogans on Canton Road, a popular shopping destination for mainland visitors. But supporters of mainlanders labeled the parody marchers traitors and told them to stop creating conflict between the two sides of the border. Today wasn't the first time the group organized a parody protest, as they held a similar one back in March. That demonstration was considered a follow-up to the controversial anti-mainlander protest in February, in which protesters yelled and hurled insults at mainland shoppers on Canton Road, who they accused of overcrowding the city and hogging its resources. The events drew condemnation from both Beijing and Chief Executive Yeung.
Health Minister Raymond says he's very concerned about the recent surge in respiratory illness cases in the Middle East, which could be transmitted between humans. He's appealed to travelers to the affected countries to avoid wildlife. Edna Day reports.
Cases of the potentially deadly Middle East respiratory syndrome or MERS are surging, with over 300 reported, over 100 of them fatal, to the World Health Organization. Recently, there have been a significant number of infections in healthcare facilities in Saudi Arabia's coastal business hub of Jeddah and in Abu Dhabi, both involving healthcare workers. Health Minister Raymond says the government is very concerned about the recent development of the disease after travelers came down with it after visiting the Middle East. Ko also said there's evidence that the disease could be transmitted between humans.
The recent number of imported cases have steeply increased, as well as there have been two recent cases of travelers returning from the Middle East to Southeast Asia, having contracted the illness. On the other hand, there are also strong evidence pointing to the fact that MERS have an ability to be transmitted between humans.
Ko also advised travelers to stay away from wildlife.
I would appeal to Hong Kong citizens, if you are traveling to the affected areas, please do not go into contact with wild animals, in particular camels, because there were already scientific evidence pointing to the fact that the camels in the Middle East area can carry the coronavirus causing MERS.
Ko said the health department has urged travel agents in Hong Kong not to arrange activities with camels for travelers booking holidays.
Pan-Democrat lawmakers are studying ways to limit LegCo President Zhang Yuxing's power to cut filibusters short. At the same time, some pro-establishment lawmakers have apologized for not showing up for yesterday's budget debate, which forced Zhang to adjourn the meeting. Emily Steele reports.
Radical lawmakers trying to delay the passing of the budget bill succeeded yesterday by managing to postpone the debate for a week. LegCo President Zhang Yuxing was forced to adjourn the session due to a lack of quorum, as only 34 out of 70 lawmakers were in the chamber when the radicals demanded a headcount, the 8th during the 4-hour meeting. The Pan-Democrat and pro-establishment camps pointed fingers at each other for the fiasco. Leung Kwok-hong from the League of Social Democrats was blamed for leaving at the last minute, while the radicals said the pro-Beijing camp should have enough people present since they support the budget. Today, Ip Kwok-kim from the pro-government DAB party apologized on behalf of some of his colleagues who did not show up in yesterday's debate. It's every lawmaker's responsibility to attend LegCo meetings, said Ip. He added that pro-Beijing lawmakers have agreed that from now on, they will return to the chamber within 5 minutes of the quorum bell going off. Meanwhile, the Pan-Democrats say they're trying to think of ways to limit Zhang's power to cut filibusters short. He's killed marathon debates twice in the past 2 years, citing a LegCo rule allowing him to act in a situation not covered by other rules. That led to accusations that he abused his powers. Unionist lawmaker Lee Chuk-yen says if the president has unlimited powers to kill filibusters whenever he wants, they will become pointless. He said Pan-Democrats are looking into the possibility of amending LegCo's rules, such as barring Zhang from cutting a filibuster if a third of the chamber supports it. Every lawmaker has the right to filibuster, and it gives minority members a chance to block bills they disagree with, said Lee. We are worried that if and when the authorities try to push bad laws like Article 23, we need to make sure we can filibuster the bill, guard the gate, and block its passage. But he admitted that if lawmakers always filibuster, the public will lose faith in them, as most people don't want to see LegCo meetings adjourned. Critics also say millions of taxpayer dollars are wasted on what they see as meaningless debates.
President Xi Jinping has called for decisive action against terrorism following an attack at a railway station in troubled Xinjiang region. 3 people were killed, 2 of them the attackers, and 79 injured in last night's blast, which came as Xi ended his first trip to the region. Here's Anna Zhe.
Armed paramilitary officers and riot police were immediately deployed to Urumqi's South Railway Station, the biggest in Xinjiang, after the attack at around 7 p.m. last night. All entrances to the station were cordoned off and trains suspended, just as a train from Chengdu, capital of Sichuan province, was arriving. According to mainland media, knife-wielding attackers went on a stabbing spree at the exit of the arrival hall, and around the same time, the explosion happened. It's believed the blast came from some luggage left on the ground between the station exit and a bus stop. 3 people were killed and at least 79 injured in the attack. It's believed that 2 of those who died were behind the attack. President Xi Jinping has called for decisive action against violent terrorist attacks. The battle to combat violence and terrorism will not allow even a moment of slackness, and decisive actions must be taken to resolutely suppress the terrorists' rampant momentum, Xi said. He also noted that the anti-separatism battle in Xinjiang is long-term, complicated and acute. Xi has ordered an all-out effort by local authorities to solve the case and punish the criminals. The attack happened after Xi's first visit to the troubled region, during which he said tackling terrorism is a top priority, after a spate of attacks blamed on ethnic Uyghur Muslim separatists from Xinjiang. But a World Uyghur Congress spokesman said Xi's visit didn't help ease tensions there and only provoked the local population, as it encouraged law enforcers to increase suppression of Uyghurs by identifying them as a public threat. The last major incident was in March, when 29 people were killed and 140 injured in a knife rampage at a railway station in the southwestern city of Kunming. The attack in Kunming also triggered tighter security in the capital as the week-long Labor Day holiday, which began today. Security checkpoints were set up at popular tourist spots, including the Forbidden City and Tiananmen Square. Authorities expect more than 100,000 people will visit the Forbidden City daily during the break. Security measures have been upgraded to the same level as during the Beijing Olympics in 2008 at railway stations and public parks.
Overseas, the International Monetary Fund has approved a $17 billion bailout for Ukraine, but this comes with strings attached in the form of hugely unpopular austerity measures. Arthur Urquiola reports.
Following months of turmoil, the managing director of the International Monetary Fund has announced that help is on the way for Ukraine.
Urgent action was necessary. Decisive measures were taken by Ukraine, and decisive measures have just been taken by the IMF. So there has been a very strong endorsement for the program, which will release over the course of the next 2 years $17.1 billion in different installments over the course of those 2 years.
Approval came from the IMF's 24-member board, which includes representatives from Russia and the US. It clears the way for an immediate $3.2 billion injection to Ukraine's cash-strapped government to avoid possible debt default. But as expected, the deal comes with strings attached. As with the rest of Europe, it means Ukrainians will be subjected to punishing austerity measures, such as pensions and pay slashed by the state. Unelected Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk signed up for the harsh economic cuts on behalf of his people just days after overthrowing the previous government in a Western-backed revolution. These include doubling petrol prices, freezing the minimum wage, and holding down state pensions and salaries. While the IMF has demanded austerity in several European countries in return for bailouts, even people within the organization say taking money away from the people will not improve a country's economy. Lagarde appeared to acknowledge this.
It's a program which has implementation risks. It's one where we are trying to mitigate the risk as much as we can. We have had prior actions which have been addressed satisfactorily. We will have what I would call high-frequency review, because there will be review of the performance every 2 months in the first sequence, in order to make sure that that determination is actually followed through.
Meanwhile, there's more trouble within the new government. Yatsenyuk has threatened a reshuffle amid criticism over the failure to restore order in eastern regions, where pro-Russian separatists have seized control of government buildings in major cities with little opposition from security forces. Police chiefs there have been sacked following the chaos, and Yatsenyuk has threatened his ministers with the same fate if order is not restored. In an attempt to prevent pro-Russian areas from holding referendums on independence, Yatsenyuk has pledged a non-binding poll. He said he would submit a law into parliament for a poll which would cover unity, territorial integrity, and decentralization of authority. Arthur Urquiola, ATV News.
A 5-meter-long shark has been spotted in waters of the Western Australian city of Perth. Witnesses at City Beach said the great white was attracted by a 6-meter-long whale that swam into the area earlier this week. The sighting forced the closure of several beaches, but City Beach reopened as the shark headed north. Finance news. The local market was closed for Labor Day. Let's have a look at overseas markets starting in the US. The Dow Jones is down by nearly 9 points. Over in Europe, the London FTSE is up 17 points, while the German and the French markets are closed. US dollar cross rates now is 1.38 to the euro, 1.68 to the pound sterling, and it's 102 Japanese yen against the greenback. Time to check your Mark 6 tickets. Here are tonight's winning numbers: 1, 14, 28, 29, 37, 43. And the extra number is 30. And the weather forecast for the next few days. Mainly cloudy with sunny intervals tomorrow. Temperatures will range from 22 to 26 degrees. Here's a look at the weather around the world. That's all the news for now. Thanks for watching ATV. I'm Raymond Yeung. Good night.
Coming up, a window on. Biarritz. Surfers see it as a paradise nowhere else can compare to. Tourists see it as a luxurious seaside town with intoxicating beauty. You'll see it's definitely not all it's about. Leisure time. Life's a beach. Friday night at 8:30. This Saturday, get extra amusement from our fabulous Korean Hour and wait until you come to the final destination where you will be welcomed by endless tears and heartwarming laughter. Korea Agro Fisheries and Food Trade Corporation Special. Korean Hour. You are my destiny. Saturday afternoon at 5:30. You don't have to go to Japan. You're already there. Follow Begin Japanology into the world of Japanese culture. Experience the traditional and modern life. Reveal the pursuit of romance and perfection. Every angle presents a unique Japan. Begin Japanology. Saturday and Sunday night at 8:30.
啲大人話手指邋遢咗唔好放入口，未洗乾淨有農藥嘅嘢更加唔好放入口。我知病從口入啊嘛，但係食煙會生癌，甚至會早死。點解佢哋仲會將煙仔放入口嘅？我唔想你係早死嗰個啊！仲等？即刻戒煙啦！
From the best-selling American author of more than 50 books, Dr. Stanley has spread his messages across many countries to heal people's soul. Learn to control your life. Don't be afraid. In Touch with Dr. Charles Stanley, every Sunday afternoon at 2. Find out Britain's top antiques enthusiast. To be one step closer to becoming an antiques master. Contestants are eager to show their talents. Now, the competition starts. Antiques Master, Series 1, Friday night at 9.
Stockholm. Situated on 14 islands, it's the Venice of the North. The proximity to water creates a constant holiday feeling. More than 2 million people live in the Swedish capital. Many people in Stockholm even call it the capital of Scandinavia. It is, after all, the largest and financially most powerful city in Northern Europe. Stockholm is both a city and a small town. The summers are short, but the people of Stockholm make sure they enjoy them. The best views are had from above, from the roof of the old Parliament building, for example.
Yes. So welcome, how does it feel?
Veerle Schrovens is a climbing instructor and offers an unusual city tour.
Before we start, as Tubbe already explained, we're going for a walk with the dog. You will be connected. Tubbe will do this with one of those in this safety runner.
Then it's time to set off on steel walkways. Simple, really. It's a different perspective of the city, including for the residents of Stockholm who are participating in Veerle Schrovens' tour today. It's a tour with panoramic views and a powerful adrenaline rush. At the same height as the old town's church towers, everyone gets a feel for Stockholm's light and expanse.
So you can almost compare to the Titicaca Lake in Peru.
The bird sections were really narrow. We went down here and there was nothing to hold on to, so I trusted the harness.
Fantastic.
That's our city, our great home. It's lovely to see how it's all connected, how far apart or how close things are. It's a great different perspective.
Fiele Schrovens is from Belgium. She couldn't live without her rooftop tours anymore. She came to Stockholm for the first time 15 years ago when she was on a business trip as a sales rep. She fell in love with the city, the openness, the water and the relaxed Swedes. It took just one weekend.
Easy little bit small, then it's like a barrel. I was wandering around and I had this feeling, I am at home. I was not getting lost for the first time in my life. I'm a guide, but I was used to get lost all the time, everywhere. And I had this feeling, this is where I come from. And I have been living in several countries and cities, but this was a very intense feeling.
A Belgian woman who has found her dream city. Stockholm is a city full of fashion and creative types. The people of